we've got a new guest. It's Jameson. Welcome, Jameson, to the Tile Bar Happy Hour. The Tile Happy Hour show. And I got some comments mainly from somebody said, Craig, you're always drinking sweet tea. You need to pick a different drink. So here it is, John.
Yeah.
Welcome.
I wasn't the one who was saying that, but I was thinking that this is a happy hour show, and I know you're of age, and I figured you'd have some. What are you drinking there, Jameson?
It's Jameson. I found it. I like Irish whiskey. I like whiskey in general, and this Jameson is an IPA edition, which I'm a big fan of IPA beers. So I figured it's the best of both worlds. So, John, cheers.
Yeah, cheers. Well, I happen to have whiskey myself, a little Tennessee whiskey, Jack Daniel's, number 7.
Nice, Jack Daniel's, number 7.
Do you know
John,
what Jack Daniel's?
How was the week?
Well, it was really good, but do you know what Jack Daniel's real name was?
James?
It was Jasper Newton Daniel.
How did we get Jack out of Jasper Newton, or just somebody just?
I don't know. In the 1860s, he ran away from home to work on a farm. His mother had died. He had a stepmother, and his father died in the Civil War. And he worked on a farm, and he learned how to make whiskey. 1860s, and it's been all uphill from there.
Pretty famous whiskey. It's probably the first one I ever heard of. Of course, once I was of age, as you said, and it's. There's so many different types out there. Good friend of mine introduced me to the Jameson Irish whiskey, and I got stuck on it for I didn't have a problem, but it was my drink of choice for a few years. And so I found this bottle, and I figured that, why not add the whiskey cam to the show? It may not always be whiskey. It may be something different.
All right.
Don't you think?
Well, yeah. Well, I have another Jack Daniel's fun fact. Who do you think was buried with a bottle of Jack Daniel's? Singer
buried with a bottle of Jack Daniel's.
From the Rat Pack.
Oh, it's all of them drank a lot. Let's see, Frank.
Yeah, you got it, Frank Sinatra.
Yeah, because I think Dean, for his name, it seemed like he was probably a martini guy.
Yeah, I think you're right.
But
happy Friday.
So it's Friday. Welcome to the show. I hope your tile week went well. This is live. One of the greatest things about having a live broadcast is we can talk to you. So send us your questions. We have been promoting this all week this week. And we're going to talk about sealers today. We've got a couple other things planned, but sealers are a big part of our industry and what we do week in and week out. I get questions on it daily. So we want to answer your questions here live today, no matter where you're watching from. If you're watching on YouTube or LinkedIn or Twitter or anything else, VHS, 8-track, send us your questions. If you're not watching live, John, we still want to hear from you. So there's a comment section or a tweet section, a retweet. I don't know what you do with all that stuff, but we will find your comment and we will answer it. Maybe not on this show, but on the next show. But if you see the thing scrolling across the bottom, send us your questions. I can bring them on screen live. If you've got my phone number, you can text me and we'll bring it into it live and we'll answer those. Make sure you interact with us in some way. Because we want to hear from you. This is, as I said last week, this is not our show. This is your show.
I would also like to know where people are watching from. So if you happen to be near your computer, if you're not driving, if you're on Facebook too, we're on streaming live on Facebook. Let us know where you're watching from. That would be pretty cool to know. So
absolutely.
Hey, what about our social handles? So if people want to reach us.
Yeah. Hey, I actually made something for that, John. Hold on. You haven't seen this. I forgot to show you this. Hold on. Surprises. I don't know what it looks like, but look at that.
Very nice.
So on YouTube, Facebook, I have a Facebook group, and on TikTok, before it gets banned from the world, I am Tile the World. You can @ me, tweet me, comment me, Send me a video. John,
Email.
tell me I can only fit, you have so many different names and so many different profiles. I only put 2 up there.
Well, at John Tedisco is my Instagram, and that's my main. Of course, Facebook's my name as well. And YouTube, it's the Tile Channel, also known as John Tedisco Live. So a lot of live features go on there. So anyone, if you could just subscribe, if you want to see this show next week, you forget what time it starts. If you subscribe to our channels, either one of our channels, and also click for notifications. So while you're working, it's 3:55 and you want to wind your day down, that would be good. Hey, we got a hey from Raleigh, North Carolina, my hometown. John, the great thing about the platform that we're on right now is you can watch it live on my channel or John's channel. And I think it should be a contest to see who can get the most views. And then we can maybe we won't have a drinking game. That would be dangerous. Maybe there'll be some kind of an award. Well, who can boost our channels up the most? And let's do that on YouTube. Say who gets the most views by next Sunday. If you win after a certain period of time, you send me a bottle of Jack.
Okay. And if I win, you send me a bottle of Jameson.
All right. It's a deal.
Okay. That's a deal. So next week, we're going to have some numbers to see who got the most views by showtime next week on our YouTube channels. Tile the World for Craig. Go Craig. The Tile Channel for John. Boo John. So it's been a crazy week, John. I know that throughout our week, not only do we have full-time jobs, but you also do something every week on your social channels. What is that called?
So every Friday I do it's a happy hour theme. It's usually about a minute long, and it's called a product highlight.
Okay.
And it's actually, I love doing it for 2 reasons. First and foremost, I learn about new products pretty much first, because I gain these items out of our studios, and I'm seeing things sometimes right when they're launching or right before they're launching. So I get to learn about them. And that's how this all started, me just learning products. And I'm like, well, let's do a video and let's put it out on social media. So I have a lot of people that see that and then comment. I'll visit an architect or a designer's firm, and they'll be like, oh, what's that product you were talking about last week? I'm like, oh, geez, I didn't know you saw that. And it's actually pretty helpful. So, yeah,
it's great for the community. As we have a lot of different reps, and not all of them can get to the Inwood office, and definitely not all of our clients can get to the Inwood office. And this week, I've got your video. Let's take a quick look at it.
Wow.
Hey, it's John Tedisco. Guess what? It's Friday and it's happy hour all day here at Tile Barn. This is probably one of the most exciting tile launches we've had in a while. This is super nice. Come check this out. This is called Color One. It's actually a blend of 2" by 8" real concrete tile, as well as 2x8 lava, glazed lava stone. So this is called Color One Blends, and you can see why. It's a blend of multiple colors and multiple materials, but it actually originates from the Color One Lava series, 10 colors, and the Color One Cement rather, and we put it together, but you can buy them individually. So it's almost 3 series in one. Here's the other 2 blends that were curated by our in-house design team. Really nice stuff. You can do so much with this. It's live on our website. This is John Tedisco. I'd like to wish you a happy hour.
That's cool, John. I like that. So that tile, give us some back. You said it's lava stone. I mean, is that just a name, or is that really from a volcano?
It's real lava stone, which is cut and then it's actually glazed and fired. Tile Bar is actually pretty innovative with lava material. It's extremely dense, and it takes a glaze very nicely. So we put some really nice glazes with a slight undulated, really like sort of a orange peel texture below it, because the lava is not perfect, and it really creates a nice look. And then there's another part of the Color One series, which I showed you there, which is a concrete tile, which is a completely animal from the lava stone, but it's part of the same series. So we have in one series Color One, with a concrete tile, which is a full body, nicely colored cement tile, 2x8s, and then the lava stone is glazed. And you can buy the lava stone by itself. You can buy the cement version by itself, or you can buy there's 4 different blends that blend multiple colors and lava and concrete together. And that's what I showed there. It was really super nice.
And it is not mounted in a sheet. They're individual tiles, correct?
Yeah, they come and yeah, the tile guy has to like blend it on the job. Yeah.
We got a comment coming in live. The floor is lava, John. So we got to get off the floor. The floor is lava. That's from probably some kindergarten teacher out there in the world. But it's interesting that you brought those on
Wait, maybe
Sealer
that person
Day.
was trying to say that the floor tile, the lava stone is suitable for a floor. Maybe they're familiar with the product. Because I failed to mention that.
Yes. That they may be an industry insider. The cement tile that is part of that series, is it sealed or glazed also?
It is not, and it's quite porous, like any cement tile. And one day we should have like a show on sealers, and we'll talk about. Oh wait,
that's today, right?
Yes.
That is today. Well, that's interesting, because you think of lava as being very porous, and it's kind of like the Puma Stone, but from what I've seen from the Lava Stone series that we have, is the glaze is so thick on top of it, it may not need a sealer, but yet that cement tile.
Definitely. The cement tile has probably 20% porosity.
Yeah.
Yeah. And a regular, any type of glazed tile, right, could have what, 0.05% or
right. It's, the glazing on the tile is almost impervious.
Yeah.
Well, that's awesome. That product highlight. So you do that every week on a different product.
I do. So I do that every week. I post it on my channels, and it's been pretty good. But I heard, well, not only heard, I've seen that you do something pretty interesting every week. It's called Friday Fails. Did you happen to do a clip with that?
Well, by chance I did. And my Friday Fails are not as serious as your product highlights. But being in where I am and the things I deal with every day, I get brought problems every day. And some things are serious, and some things are just laughable. And I saw this the other day, and we'll show this clip, and I'll tell a story afterwards. So here is today's Friday fail. Oh! Have a lot of time to think about this cold tile under my feet. I wish it was warm, like grass, like the warm grass in a meadow. Soft and cushy. I can get out of my tub and walk across my warm. Yes, I figured it out. I'm gonna put carpet in my bathroom. The sogginess is not a problem, is it? I mean, over time, it'll be fine, right? So yeah, John, mine is not near as serious as yours.
Yeah, I like that a lot, and not a good idea to have that in your bathroom. Now, your Friday fails are typically, you at the local gas station buying sushi and going to the bathroom and finding tile with like 3/4-inch grout joints with a lot of lippage and drains that are a couple inches above the low part of a shower. But the Friday fails, and you had said this on our first episode, that they kind of find you these problems, right?
And I'm going to put this out there to everybody that's watching between here and now. I want to do, and this came to me as most things do when I'm supposed to be sleeping. I want to do a tile drain beauty contest for the worst tile drain configuration, because I have seen some horrible ones.
Yeah.
And this came to me, I forget, I'm a part of a lot of different groups, Reddit and all those things, trying to help people. That's what I want to do, is serve the community and help people. And I saw this carpet next to a tub in a bathroom. And it made me think of my grandma, because my grandma would always cover up her tile in her bathroom with carpet. And as a kid, I thought it was kind of cool until I figured out it's really gross.
Yeah. Well, it's like those carpets that they have that wrap around the front of the toilet.
Exactly.
Yeah, nasty.
It's just nasty. So when I saw that tub with the green, I was like, well, that looks like grass. And I don't know. My brain is weird and works in different ways. So that was our Friday fail. And I'd really do work. I don't just make clips.
What was one of your craziest Friday fails?
The craziest thing, and the one that's gotten the most traffic, is there's two clips that, and I've seen a bunch of them, but there's two that I've put out there where the installer didn't include a movement joint. And movement joints are very important to the tile system and the tile world. If you talk to any contractor long enough, you're going to hear EJ 171, which, look it up. But you see the tile actually filmed jump off the floor. The weather has changed, the heat or air has come on, and the room has contracted and has blown the tile off the floor. And some people were lucky enough to catch it on video. Those were the two craziest ones I've seen. And I learned the tile industry from an old guy named Ward Goddard. I love him. He's passed on now, but he told me one time he was tiling a mall, and he walked around the door. He heard this horrible crack, and when he turned the corner, 1,000 square feet of quarry tile jumped off the floor all at the same time.
Wow!
Now, he did tend to exaggerate, but these videos that I have found prove that can happen, and that's why movement joints are so critical. And that's why I think those videos that I put out there have probably done better than the other ones.
I haven't heard the term movement joint. I heard expansion joint. That's kind of the same thing, right? Or is it not?
I think expansion joint is a general term, but you got to think there's expansion and contraction. So you need the joint needs to
move.
It needs to move. It needs to be prepared for both expansion and contraction. So movement joint is the correct term. Expansion joint is that's normally what they mean, but it's made for both.
Right, but just to be clear, people have a bathroom or residential kitchen. You're not putting movement joints. You're talking about over the large expanse of space, I believe, right?
Right. If you're doing a small bathroom, your movement joint is normally between the tile and the baseboard. You're going to not want to grout that in. And,
okay. So it's not necessarily a structure of like a rubber divider. It's just
could be an air gap,
necessarily grouted to the wall. There's a space.
Right. It could be an air gap, and that's the good thing about new construction is you can tile almost to the wall, leave it off the wall, 1/4 of an inch or so, and then your baseboard sits on top of it so it can move freely underneath.
Right. And that's a good spot because that's where you're going to get the most temperature fluctuation too, is under the baseboard.
And when it's a renovation, a lot of times they'll tile and leave it 1/4 inch away from the existing baseboard, and then they'll put a piece of shoe molding to cover that gap. But you never want to do that gap. Hey, our buddy Rick Crane is on, and he has something to say. Movement joints are critical to steam showers, pools, commercial application. Insulation 101. You learn the importance of movement joints.
Yeah. So Rick represents glass tile manufacturer, and glass tile is often put in some interesting environments: outdoors, hot tubs, pools, sun shining on it, getting really cold at night, getting hot in the day, water lines. So that's a good point, Rick. Thank you.
Yeah, those the pools that I've done a couple of glass pools, and man, you got to think the temperature between the water and everything, it's moving a lot, and you have a ton of movement. You need to have a ton of movement joints in those things for it to last a long time.
I wonder if the color of the tile plays a role in how hot it gets. Like if you have a white tile versus a navy blue tile.
Sure, I think so. Just like asphalt is hotter than concrete. Just one absorbs the heat, one reflects the heat.
Right.
And so,
but I got a vision in my head regarding these movement joints. What is it when people put this, usually outdoors, like a tar, like a strip between? I've seen it, I guess, in concrete, but do they do that in tile? Is there any time a movement joint is you adding something flexible, or is it always just a gap or a space?
No. If it's going to be exposed to traffic, you normally add something flexible, whether it is a pre-made joint. They make those it's two pieces of metal, and then you have the flexible sealant in between, and it can move back and forth like that.
Right.
Or it's just the edges of the tile to where you're adding a sealant in with a caulk gun or something like that. And it's very similar to what they do with concrete.
I've seen that in Manhattan. I was walking and I saw a couple of guys in front of a store with a caulking gun, and they were putting some kind of compound between it, and they were covering it with cardboard and taping it down. Yeah. I assume that was some sort of movement joint.
Yeah, and then the cardboard there was just kind of for protection to keep high
heels, I guess.
Yeah, somebody was stepping in it, writing their name in it, because who knows what they'd write in it in New York City. Does anyone ever put a movement joint vertically, or is it always horizontal? No, it can be vertically also. TCNA requires or suggests, they don't require because it's not a requirement, all in and out corners and changes of materials need to have a movement joint. So you think anytime you got an in corner or an out corner, it's backwards for you. It needs to have a sealant joint or a movement joint. Most of the failures that I see from our team on countertops or backsplashes because they've not included a movement joint between their solid surface countertop and their backsplash. Now, also, they suggest having it on change of material. So if you're butting your tile up to your wood casing, you need to have a movement joint.
Right.
So those are a couple of different things. But then, for instance, John, you got the contract to this huge bank that's got 2,000 square foot, 3-story wall. It's got to have movement joints in that also. And you get direction on that from TCNA. And because everything moves and everything moves at different rates. Rick knows that glass moves differently than porcelain, and porcelain moves differently than. So if you don't take into account that movement, you're going to have a failure. The tile's going to be off the wall, and then you're going to say, what's hilarious to me is working as a distributor now, and I used to be a contractor, how many people blame the tile. It's like the tile failed. Well, the tile didn't fail, that your installation failed. The system failed. You didn't follow the right guidelines.
So talking about guidelines, TCNA, Tile Contractors of North America, puts out their guidelines. And for people who are not familiar with it, how does that work? These are things that people should learn and follow?
Yeah, the TCNA writes a book, and I talked about it before, and I still don't have it by my desk. It's on my bookshelf, but it's probably that thick, that has different guidelines. And the good thing about that document, it tries to explain every possible system that you have for the tile and stone industry: interior, exterior, wet, not wet, pools, whatever. And it explains it and gives you suggestions of how to install it, what materials to use.
Right.
And if you have an installer, for anybody out there that's listening that's not familiar with these guidelines, you need to find a better installer.
That's a good point. Now, do they address sealing in TCNA, or is that not technical enough?
Not normally. That's normally would be addressed by the manufacturer. So I see what you did there. I think are you transitioning us?
Called a segue, Mr. Co-host.
Okay. So yes, sealers are, they've been around forever, and there's a few different types of sealers, and there's a few different nuances to it, and which is what makes them interesting. And as a contractor, I used to not like them, but as a distributor, I like them more for different reasons.
Well, let me take you back to like 1975 in the world of sealers.
Okay, go.
Sealers, think of 8-track tape, right?
Yeah.
And think of silicone sealers. And silicone sounds pretty cool, right? You get a tile, you put a silicone sealer on the grout or a stone, but there are a lot of problems. That's like first generation of sealers in the industry. And I guess initially they work pretty good, but there's at least two main problems that I'm aware of with silicone sealers, which nobody uses now, is it's a topical sealer.
Uh-huh.
So it means it sits right on top of the tile. And there's two things that usually happen with it. And I'm assuming most people may know this, but maybe not. It would crack and crumble and peel off, but also would turn yellow with the sun, with the UV rays, right?
Yeah.
So since the early introductions of sealers to tile, it's evolved tremendously. And it's really
absolutely.
incredible.
What was that?
No, it's really incredible, the technology that has been employed in the sealer industry.
Yeah, and I think after the silicone sealants became the solvent sealants, which were a different chemical compound and were very strong and worked really well and didn't yellow, and they didn't perform the way those topical sealers were, but the VOCs were bad, the off vapor, and they smelled terrible, and
the volatile organic compounds.
Yeah, so then they went back to the drawing board, and now we have water-based sealers that are not as strong, but yet they don't kill you if you huff it in and are doing a 10,000 square foot enclosed room.
So the pendulum swung a little too far. You had silicones that were topical, that were really had problems, like they would peel, crackle, and yellow. And then they said, let's go to solvent-based, which has none of those issues, but they had VOCs that could have been emitted. It has a strong odor, while you're applying it, and sometimes a lasting odor, and also extremely expensive. Compared to a silicone, it was light years more than that. And now there's a place for solvent sealers, right? But they've been able to design them in a way they're much more user friendly. But there's kind of a new approach, which is a water-based sealer, correct me if I'm wrong, Craig, that performs like a solvent base, or tries to perform like a solvent base.
Yeah, I would say tries and does a relatively good job on an interior application. I think your solvent-based sealers are still, and I'm by far, not tremendously versed in sealers. I know them well, but I think your solvent-based are still the ones you can use outside. Your water-based will be broken down by different things, which is why a water-based sealer, when we have a client that has a question about it, it has to be reapplied. And that's because the cleaning products you use, the oils from your body, if it's in a shower, can break down that water-based sealer over time and more quickly than a solvent-based sealer. But if your maintenance is right and your installation process is correct, it'll protect your system just like any of the silicone, better than the silicone and as good as the solvent-based.
Can it be said that when you're buying a quality water-based sealer, the better quality you buy, it has the properties in it that allow it to be not resealed as often? Is that the case?
You can say anything you like, John. Now, whether it's true or not is the question.
All right.
The key to that, that's a very complicated equation because it comes down to use. Now, if you're doing it in a or in a closet that's never walked in versus an elevator lobby in the Empire State Building, those are two different things. And you've got wearability, but it's resistant to chemicals is I think you can say that. Yes, most water-based sealers are resistant. I still don't think they have the longevity that the solvent-based did or do.
Right, but can it be said that a real cheap, if someone's pricing out a product with the same profit margins, a real super cheap sealer probably won't last as long as a better more expensive sealer. Is that
correct?
Okay.
I mean, the top of the line sealer that we sell is Stone Tech, which is owned by Laticrete's Bulletproof. That's their kind of maximum sealer, that it's got maximum protection, this and that and the other. But they also sell the maintenance with it, that when you clean it with the maintenance and you pair them together, it actually rejuvenates the sealer as you clean it and probably adds a little bit more. So that increases it. Now, when you buy the cheapest sealer, you know, you're looking at nickels a square foot. You get what you pay for. You asked me to do the math on the cost per square foot, and I forgot to. So I don't know what that is. But we sell the gallon jug of Bulletproof for, I think it's like $170. And if you're putting that on a stone floor, let's say it's a medium density stone floor, you're going to probably get 1,100 to 1,500 square feet out of that. So what's that math, John?
Yeah. So you're talking a tile, a marble tile, right? Could be $10 a square foot. It could be $20 a square foot. Could be 30. So you're talking huge amount of money versus pennies or nickels. So I agree with you that is. But you talked about stone. So, and we did start this segment like what needs to be sealed. Right. So there are different categories of material. So in general, there are. Oh, look at that. You have a question. Ceramics, there's porcelain, there's glass, there's stone, there's slate. So does everything need to be sealed?
My answer to that question is sealer is relatively cheap insurance. Now, the sealer is only going to be as effective depending on the porosity of the material. So if you've got a marble or a travertine that's very porous, or like that cement tile that's 20% absorptive, it's going to soak in the sealer, and that sealer is going to cover, it's going to fill in all of the fissures and everything, and it's going to protect that stone relatively well. A porcelain tile or a glass tile, which is impervious, is not going to absorb that much of the sealer. But does that mean it's useless? No, I don't think so.
You know how I visualize it as picture a raw piece of wood. And you wanted to stain that piece of wood with a stain. And I'm not saying sealers change the appearance, but I'm just giving a visual. If you take a raw piece of wood and you put a stain over it, and you wipe off any excess, it soaks into the pores. And then what do? You let it dry, and then you put another application of the stain. And what happens, more of the stain is really being wiped off on your rag. And you don't stain something 5 times. It's just useless. But every time, to a certain point, it kind of fills any pores. And that kind of gives a visual that when you're applying an impregnating sealer, and we need to talk about that, impregnating sealer, it has a certain amount of pores, right? It gets filled with the first application, and then depending on the material and the budget and the use, you may want to apply another application. But people mistakenly call it a coat, and coat kind of infers it's on top.
Right.
But I think when people say coat, I like to say application. So 2 applications instead of 2 coats, because it's really not a coat. But I started this segment off talking about topical or silicone. So can you talk about impregnating sealers?
Yeah. And an impregnating sealer, I'm not going to go there. Never mind. Just like you said, it absorbs in. Like if you take water and drop it into your sponge, water's not going to sit on top of that sponge. It's going to soak into it. It's going to fill up all the holes. And even though you can't tell it, most stones, and even up to the highest density porcelain, still have pores and micro fissures and stuff in there that this sealer will penetrate, which is why it's called a penetrating sealer. And the penetrating sealer coats that with a substance that is hard to bond to. And the reason it's hard to bond to is that means the dirt, hopefully, or stain or wine won't get stuck in there. I always tell my clients or the team that asks, how many coats do I do? It depends. I suggest sealing it until it won't accept any more sealer.
Right.
So when you seal it to the point where you put 1-2 coats on it and then it's puddled up on top, you've completely sealed everything. There's nothing left there. Get that puddle up, because that can dry and become ugly. But that's when I say, especially in showers, if you're going to use stone in shower, that's what you need to do, because
Right.
if not, your stone is going to soak up all your shower water, which is, they call it gray water for a reason. It's got junk in it, oils and soaps. You don't want that in your stone, because that's what molds, just
All
like
right.
my carpet in your bathroom.
So just to review, so we no longer recommend any topical sealers, at least in our world. And most sealers are, and there's a term that's interchangeable: impregnating, right, and penetrating. They're both interchangeable terms
Yep.
for sealer, and none of those are topical. And like your sponge analogy, if you have a dry sponge sitting on the countertop and you pour water on it, it's going to take that moisture until the point where it no longer takes that moisture. The only trick is with a sponge, excess will run off. On a tile, it will puddle and dry, and I'll have a white haze. And then if you had to clean that off, it's not cleaning it off.
Well, you have to re-emulsify the sealer. I actually went through this with a client this week. Normally, the way you do that is you take the sealer that's puddled up on there and you apply fresh sealer, and it'll re-emulsify what's on there, and then you get it off. But I do think, John, there are some topical sealers still out there on the market.
Oh, really?
And what you have to be critical of or aware of is that they don't necessarily yellow anymore. I think they fixed that, but they do show wear patterns. And if you're walking in a certain pattern, that sealer's gonna wear off. And the good thing about that is it's not, if you've got a very soft stone, there's no wear pattern in your stone. It protects your stone from that. The penetrating sealer doesn't necessarily do that, but these topical sealers can. But remember, they're just topical. They're just sitting there on top of the stone, and a lot of them are used to change the color or to enhance or add a different finish. If you installed a hone tile and you decide now you want a polished tile, that's one way to do it, even though long term it's not the best way.
What's really interesting is when they first started offering polished porcelain tiles. See, porcelain tiles are very low porosity, right? And definitely don't require a sealer. You can put an application of a sealer, and sometimes people doing that maybe to fill some microscopic pores, but often it's just to seal the grout, so it's easier just to seal the whole floor.
Seal the whole thing, yeah.
Yeah, but what was interesting is when polished porcelains first came out, everyone had the impression you should seal the matte tile because it looked porous, and the polished material was shiny, so it didn't have any absorbency. But what was interesting is most polished porcelains, how they're manufactured is the tile is made as a matte tile first, and then it's mechanically ground down like you would polish marble. They would grind the surface, and some of the matte porcelains, the pores were closed. And then when you grind the surface of the polished, the porcelain to make it shiny, it actually opened up the pores on the surface. So there was a time, and maybe that's still the case, where polished porcelains almost perhaps needed a sealer more than a matte.
That's still true. Absolutely.
Really? Wow.
That's still true. The polishing process, just from what you said, opens the pores, and it is much more susceptible to staining.
There are some manufacturers I know that are like, oh, our porcelain doesn't need to be sealed, it's a polished, and they may not be wrong in the sense that it's not necessary. But do you think there's any special systems that they have that are making them say that, or this is like a marketing thing?
I'm not sure. I mean, there could be a process that, there's so much innovation on that side of things,
right?
With the screen printing and the glazing, I would, just speaking off the top of my head, I would think a porcelain that has a shiny finish today
Right.
that you could call that a glazed porcelain. And I think a glazed porcelain is different than a polished porcelain. But I think somebody looking at them side by side may say, well, that's a polished tile. Well, not necessarily, it's glazed.
Right. Well, the glaze is like a topical glaze that's fired, right? So that
Correct.
certainly, I think, has less potential for porosity than a porcelain that's just mechanically polished.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
A glazed porcelain is it's like glass. I mean, that's where the word glaze came from. And you
Right.
know, from selling glass for years, glass is pretty much impervious.
Right.
But I still recommend hey, seal it. What does it hurt?
Right. No, that's a good point. And then in the grout, most grouts, unless you're using a high performance, funky type of formula grout, most grouts can really use a sealer, correct?
Yeah, most grouts, unless you're using a really high-end grout, can benefit from the process of sealing it. Absolutely. One question that we talked about earlier on is, do sealers change the finish?
Well, right. I mean, if it's an impregnating or penetrating material, I can't imagine it changing the finish. Topical, I could see, like I'm thinking, a project that had old quarry tile and they apply like a topical sealer and it adds a sheen that wears out. But I can't see it. What do you think?
It can.
Oh, really?
And I think the key to it is most sealers have, and if they don't have it in the bullet points on the front of their can, does not affect aesthetic or does not affect the look or does not affect the color.
Right.
If it does not say that, then there's a possibility it could give it, and I always call it the wet look. An enhancing sealer gives your stone the wet look, and you want to do that to bring out some of the natural colors of the stone. But if it says does not change it, then it should not. So there's a couple of different types out there, and you're right. The topical sealers can add like glaze to it and polish to it to where it looks like a high gloss.
Right.
I don't know who would want to do that, but looks like a VCT floor,
Well, I mean, I could see somebody has like a matte porcelain. They want to make it glossy, but it's not a factory finish look. And you talked about wear patterns. So I would highly advise against trying to change the look of the finish.
Yeah.
That
would definitely be just a last resort. And I would always test it on a spare piece of tile before you spend the money to do the whole thing.
Well, you use the term also too, about enhancing. You use the word enhancing. So that's another option, right? When people are buying a sealer, so let's say they want to get a good quality sealer, Laticrete stone, what's it called?
Stone Tech.
Stone Tech. But I know Bulletproof, very clearly, that's one of the best sealers in the industry. It's kind of an iconic material, Bulletproof. Not the cheapest, but very well worth it. And if you get a impregnating, penetrating sealer, you then have another choice. Do you want a penetrating, impregnating sealer with enhancing capabilities? And that's another animal.
Yeah. I mean, it performs the same way, but it gives you a different option especially in stonework. And let's kind of take porcelain and ceramic and glass off the table, because there'll never be enough sealer that'll enhance that. It's not going to change the finishing up. But if you have purchased the stone, and slate is probably one of the easiest examples. I remember I put in a slate patio, and it was multi-gold. I forget the exact name of it. But it was honed
multicolor, and
it was the gold series, whatever. And when you put it in, it looked okay. But man, when it got wet, it was just vibrant and beautiful. And if you wanted that look to keep it, because it would dry out quickly, it was porous, it evaporated and dried. But then if you wanted to keep that look, you had to add that enhancing sealer to do that. And that's what we did for this project. And it looks great. It looked wet all the time, but it wasn't wet. It didn't feel wet, but it brought out those natural colors that are deep in the stone.
So it's kind of like, and particularly darker stones, right? So if you're walking on the beach and you find a big like pebble that's white, and you find another pebble, a big rock that's kind of black, and they look kind of hazy, both of them, because they're dry, right? Then you put water on it. The white doesn't really change much, but the black rock or the red rock now looks black or looks red because you wet it. But quite quickly, it evaporates and it goes back to that dull look. I don't mean dull finish, I mean dull in color. So if you have a slate, right, that's a lot of slates are typically medium to dark, and you use an enhancing sealer, it makes the color stand out, but then it stops and it doesn't change. It stays that way, right? It kind of locks in that, and that probably needs to be reapplied, I would think, more often than a non-enhancing.
Yeah, but the great thing is, because it's changed the color, you can see the wear patterns or whatever pretty easily on it, and then feather it in, or choose the tiles you want to reseal so that you get a consistent look. All
right, so people should use a sealer in many cases to seal the grout. If you have a porcelain or a ceramic or a glass, some cases not necessarily important, but you can apply a sealer to a tile application. You certainly will benefit from the grout being sealed instead of painting grout lines with a sealer brush. You can just seal everything, wipe off any excess, don't leave any residue, because that just ruins your day. Then you have to decide, if it's a stone, do you want to enhance the color or not? And what's a good test is just get a dry piece of stone and wet it.
That's what. Yep. That is a great test. This is what it'll look like once you apply this enhancing sealer.
You know what I do if I'm talking to an architect and they want to know what it will look like enhanced? I take the stone, I'll wet it, and I'll have a dry rag really close by, wipe off any puddling, and like 1, 2, 3, maybe 4 seconds, that's what it will look like. Like, as soon as you wipe off the excess of the surface, the stone will be dark, and because it's water, it will evaporate. So after like 4 or 5 seconds, it will evaporate and go back to. So in that first few seconds, you could see what it will look like. So you don't actually have to do a real test with the sealer. Of course, if you're doing a lobby or very expensive stone and you have the budget, you go and do a test board, right? You do a mock-up board, you grout it, you seal it, and you decide if that's what you want to do.
Yeah. Here's my what I tell the team when I'm talking about sealers is, when do you always want to use a sealer? And there's a couple of things that kind of check those boxes for me, and it's a personal thing. I mean, it's my installation, and what I tell people: if you have any stone anywhere, I would seal it. People say, well, you don't need to seal it on the walls, so don't get dirty. Have you ever been to RDU's urinal wall in the bathroom? Yes, it can get dirty. Better safe than sorry. It's cheap insurance. If you've purchased stone, you've made an extremely good investment into your home or your business. Make the small investment to seal it and properly maintain it.
And not only investment in the material, the labor is more tremendous money, right? So,
and the second thing is, if you are installing tile in a shower, I would suggest sealing it.
Right.
No matter what tile you have, I think it's a good way to keep the maintenance down, to keep the mold away.
Right.
And it just helps with your cleaning. And so those two things are the two things where I'd say I'm going to spend the money to buy that. A shower where people are washing off, and any sort of stonework.
What's the one ingredient you need for mold to develop?
Water.
Right. So you need water. So if you wipe the outside of your tile dry with a squeegee when you shower, let's say, that's great. But doesn't mean water isn't sitting inside the tile, the stone, if it's not sealed. So I think that's where mold sometimes develops, right? Inside the stone. Absolutely. If it's porous and it's sitting there, particularly like a steam shower somewhere, has a lot of heat and doesn't get a chance vapor. And it doesn't get, a water vapor penetrates a little more, and you don't get a chance to, it doesn't get a chance to dry out if it's fully absorbed. So that with all the pores being filled, really a simple way of looking at it is look at the pores being filled with sealer as opposed to being filled with water. from the shower.
Yeah, and I would say steam shower. I had a lot of questions about steam showers this week, and steam showers with Stone. Steam showers are one of the most difficult installations a tile installer can have, bar none. Water vapor is tricky. If you don't do this system correctly, it will fail, it will mold, and you will you're going to have a bad thing. So for a steam shower and the water vapor, you think of when you squeegee it off, you're actually pushing the water into the stone.
Interesting. And
that is just a tricky all the way around. And so it needs to have the highest experienced person installing it, the best material. I don't personally like stone, but those who do, you need to maintain it well, and you need to seal it, and you need to check your sealer often and see if it is if it's still beating up water. That's my test. If your stone or tile beads water like the hood of a car after it's been waxed, it's protected. If it doesn't, then you could have an issue.
That's a good point. And let's talk about wellness for a moment. So Tile Bar hosted an event recently. It was called Designing for Wellness, and it was a CEU presentation. Architects and designers were there, and it was a company called, I think it's Feel Good Inc., who manufactures Mr. Steam, which is the premier steam manufacturer. They're actually made in New York. I don't know if you know that. And so why am I saying this? If you're buying steam for your health, that's awesome, and you're investing in Mr. Steam unit, right? But now you have mold, right?
Yeah.
It's like you're defeating what you're trying to accomplish. So you need to get the best systems, be it a stone, a steam system, and a sealer. So let's call it a system, right?
Right. And to add to that, an exhaust fan. If you've got a steam room, you need an exhaust fan.
Right. So
it moves that moisture where you want it to go rather than it letting hang in and all that other stuff.
Hey, let's talk about a fun fact on a steam shower. What are the few things you need in the steam shower that regular showers don't require?
The number one thing that you need is a waterproofing system that is approved for a steam shower, and that is different than just holding water, because steam shower is vapor. And does it protects against the transfer of vapor going the wrong way. Right. That is the most critical thing. The other thing is, like we started the thing, is movement joints. Because you think of a steam shower, you get in there or you turn it on while you're getting undressed, it's changing temperature from normal 70 degrees to 120 degrees in 5 or 10 minutes. That's right. Tremendous amount of expansion that's going on in there, and if you have not taken care of that, your tile's going to come off the wall. So those are the two things that are critical for a steam shower. Obviously, all the penetrations are dangerous, because every penetration is a place where water's going to go, and I don't know if you know it, water, just like Run DMC said, is tricky.
I have two other fun facts. So those weren't the two I was thinking about.
What were the two you were thinking about?
So I was thinking about the fact that your ceiling needs to be sloped, not perfectly flat. What is it called if you seal? Is there a technical term for a ceiling that's not flat?
It's called a flat ceiling. No, I don't know that there's a technical term for it. But if anybody's ever sat in a steam shower on the edge and had that hot water drip on you, you know why you want it sloped.
Well, that doesn't really tell people why. So if it's sloped, if it was flat, let's reverse it. If it's flat, if you did your shower with a steam shower and the ceiling is perfectly level, like typically you would want it, there inevitably water is going to beat up and drip down on your head. So you have a 110 degree drop on your nose, not fun, or some other parts of your body you may not want it.
Correct.
So what happens is, if you have a slight slope, it's fairly noticeable, and it kind of slopes to one wall. If water beads up on the ceiling, it kind of starts to roll away from the center towards the wall, the low part, and it'll drip down the wall. So that's my first thing I think of. Okay. The second thing I think of is the glass doors need to go to the ceiling. You can't, typically go into a bathroom, you have a shower door, it doesn't go to the ceiling. But in a steam shower, that glass it's usually a separate panel, right? But and don't they have a vent in there too? I don't know. Is there such a thing? Do you know?
I think normally if it's a steam shower, it has a vent in there. But if you want it to work as a steam room,
Right.
it's got to go to the ceiling to keep it in. Because if not, it's just going to roll out into
Got
your
it.
bathroom. But you're right, and let's add to that sloping. All your benches, all your niches, everything needs to be sloped towards the
Oh.
drain, because a weak point is when you sitting in the steam room and you back up and your booty hits that puddle of water because it's
Right.
sloped backwards. That's bad, because
Not nice.
that's a weak point in the system, and
Yeah.
you got to get the water out of there however you can. Water is tricky.
Yeah.
tricky.
If you're going to start singing, I'm going to bring up the next topic. No, so yeah, I saw these steam units where they had chromotherapy, they had aromatherapy.
Yeah.
It is amazing. Little screens in your shower. You can watch the happy hour, the Tile Happy Hour on YouTube in your shower.
While you shower. Yes.
While you shower. Exactly.
We should live stream from a steam room. that maybe would be interesting.
Yeah, then it won't be an afternoon show. It'll be like a late evening show.
Late night show. Yes, it's pay-per-view.
So what
If
have
you're
we missed?
interested in OnlyFans Tile Happy Hour, let us know.
Yeah, I
we
can't
are
get
for
that out of my head. Let's move forward.
Yeah, well, you mentioned something earlier. Is will a sealer prevent leaks?
Oh, so yeah. So I've people who don't know much about tile or construction, once in a while someone has a leak, right? They have a second floor bathroom and their first floor has like water coming down. It's a big maybe insurance claim. And I hear often when people, if they do have that type of problem, they'll say, oh, I guess my guy didn't seal the stone properly or the grout properly. And you could talk to this more than I can, but my understanding is showers shouldn't leak even when tile is not on it. Like it literally should be. Tell us
That's
more
right.
about that.
I saw a video from that tile chick. If you ever scroll through TikTok, she does great little videos.
That's
and
an OnlyFans
that's what she said.
thing? Or
Say
it's
that
a
again?
regular. It's an OnlyFans thing, or it's
No. This is
okay.
I think YouTube. That's her YouTube
all
channel.
right.
But she did a HydroBand shower, which is little clue into the future. Something we'll be carrying soon.
Right.
But it's completely sealed, and other than you're not supposed to walk on it, it will completely hold water, and you can shower in it without the tile. That is a misconception that I've heard a lot, is that the tile is waterproof once it's grouted. The grout has nothing to do with it. The tile is not waterproof. The grout is not waterproof. Your system is not waterproof if you're relying on that. And just like you said, some people think that a topical or a penetrating sealer will make their system waterproof. It will not.
Right. Well, if someone has a crappy job, right, like the substrate of the shower wasn't done properly to begin with, and then you have grout missing and water will get back there, it may find a way easier to become a problem. But the fact that caulking or grout may be missing or the stone is slightly porous is not the reason your shower may leak into, say, first floor to second floor. It's more that the substrate or the underlayment or the system, as we call it in our industry, is failing.
Correct.
Because it's supposed to be sealed completely. So as far as sealers are concerned, we talk about topical, usually not used much anymore. Impregnating or penetrating are the same. Then there's a choice. Do you want to enhance it, which is typically only an option when you have a stone? Like, you're not going to enhance a ceramic tile. That just won't happen, right? So you have a enhancing sealer if you choose, or a non-enhancing if you want to keep it looking like the way it comes out of the box, right? And then we talked about how long. So is it like once a year? Is that an average?
That is an average. It goes back again to use.
Right.
You know, if it's a guest shower that's only used Christmas and New Year's, then it'll last a lot longer. But if it's your shower that you're using daily and twice a day, then it's going to last more often. If you're talking about a lobby that gets medium traffic, I would test it quarterly. Just like we said, throw some water on it. The water beads up, you're protected. And if you start seeing where the traffic is, it's not beating up, then it's time to apply.
Got it. Understood. And you did mention something where there's a cleaner, I think, in the brand Laticrete, where the cleaner has some resealing capabilities. How does that work?
It's called Revitalizer, and it is a cleaner, and it also is impregnated with the bulletproof sealer in it. So if you've used the bulletproof sealer on your countertops or your backsplash, this is a great cleaner to pair with that, so that you're every time you're cleaning, you're kind of refreshing that sealer.
So you would have to probably reseal less often if you're using that cleaner to revitalize more frequently.
Correct.
Yeah. And now, doesn't Bulletproof have some kind of like warranty? I mean, a good warranty?
Yeah, I think it's a 25-year warranty on the Bulletproof sealer, and that's obviously if it's installed and taken care of correctly. But they stand behind it, and Laticrete, their warranties are really good, and they one of the few manufacturers I've worked with over the last 20 years that actually have said, hey, I did something wrong. And It doesn't happen often, but what it did, they stood behind it. So they do have that on the Bulletproof. And I think there's a couple other sealers that may have a 5 or 10-year warranty.
Yeah, I know Aquamix has some good sealers with some long gold.
I've used a truckload of Sealer's Choice Gold. It was kind of the medium. You could get it almost anywhere. Right. And if the client needed it, I knew I could go down the street and Home Depot would have Sealer's Choice Gold, and it works well. I've got a bottle of it in the lab.
Yeah, but I found that through my testing that the Laticrete, the Stone Tech, I keep thinking Bulletproof, but the performance of that is phenomenal. Can you drink it?
You can do anything you like, but I think you're not warranted to live after you drink it. So I would definitely not recommend it. But it could help with weight loss.
Well, I think this has been pretty interesting. I've learned, we both have a lot of experience in this, right? But we kind of share the information with each other. Yeah. And it's good to get some questions that we did and be able to, but if someone has a question we haven't answered, even a very specific question, like you literally have a project coming up and you're using a specific product and you want some feedback on, does this need to be sealed?
Let us know.
Yeah. And if you need to be sealed, which product do you recommend? We would love to help you out because, we're just tile experts, right? We're tile nerds, and we want to, really want to help you. We want your project to look phenomenal and to last and have the performance that you really, really expect. And like Craig, like you were saying, it's really pennies, it's really insurance, and it's certainly worth to do. Now, do people typically have their contractor? Let's assume, it's a high-end project. They're going to hire a contractor.
Normally,
are they applying it?
If it's a high-end project and it's a bid project, the architect's going to expect or specify. They need to specify it because to have it included, it's got to be in the specifications.
Right.
And once it's specified, the contractor will install it. But then it's up to the owner of the project to reapply and do the maintenance on it.
Right. Okay. That makes sense. I know sometimes people want to seal themselves for DIY projects, and it's really very simple. I don't think anyone should be intimidated by sealing.
No. Just one thing, always test an area. Find the area. If you're sealing your bathroom, find an area behind the toilet and do a test spot right there, just because there's so many different tiles. There's so many different grouts. Everything is going to react differently. Odds are it's going to react exactly the way the bottle says it will.
Right.
But you don't want yours project to be the 0.001% that it did not. So test it first. Make sure you're happy with how it looks. Then do the entire bathroom. I know you want to finish it this weekend. That's okay. Take your time. Do it right the first time. My buddy I was talking to earlier from New York, he said, we do it nice because we do it twice.
That's how we do it. I thought I was your buddy from New York.
No, it wasn't you. It was another buddy from New York. Right. But he said, that's how we do it in New York.
Yo. Hey, do people have to stay out of their sealed room for like 2 days before they can use it?
Not normally. All of them are a little bit different. Most of them will allow foot traffic within a couple hours.
Right.
They're limited to probably cleaning it for a few days.
Right.
And once again, if I need a thing, says follow the directions, read the bottle. All of them are different. Read the bottle. And if anybody tells you anything different than what that bottle says, they're wrong because
Right.
they didn't test it.
Or ask Craig.
Oh, you can ask me, but my
Right.
first thing I'm going to tell you is read the bottle, and I will never go against what the bottle says. I may give you my opinion, but the people who made that bottle have tested it, and they're going to be the ones to warranty it, not me.
Right.
I'm not coming to your house and fixing anything.
Right. That makes a lot of sense. Well, this has been a lot of fun. If you like tile, if you like the industry we're in, this is pretty interesting. I hope
We talked for an hour about sealers.
that's pretty bad. Yeah.
We were pretty nerdy.
Well, Craig, this has been great. Love chatting with you. I really think that just putting the information out there and asking for feedback has been something that's kind of drives both of us. You keep saying you want to give back, you want to
Absolutely.
talk to the community, and I'm just glad to be a part of this podcast. We have a lot of special things coming up. Special guests, great topic.
I think we should just tease, but let's not tell everything we know. I think
Oh,
if you're watching live right now, just know bigger things are coming. I mean, it's
yeah,
exciting.
this is true. So the Tile Happy Hour is hitting the road and going somewhere, and we're going to be broadcasting. So from somewhere cool, we're going to announce this next week, I believe, right?
Yeah, I think we teased it last week, but we also got a couple of guests that have contacted us. We're not going to.
Yeah, we're going to be talking
say.
to really interesting people. So from the design world, from the technical world, and everybody in the manufacturing, anything tile, you're going to see it here. So I'm really happy to do this. It's been really a lot of fun. And this is John Tedisco, and I like to wish everybody peace, health, and happiness.
And absolutely, this is Craig, and let's keep learning together and tile the world.